I am Constance Sorensen, your moderator for today. It's good to have you here. Some of you have been through this before, so you kind of know what's going to happen. I will ask you to introduce yourself and give a 2-minute opening statement, making sure that you remember to turn your mic on. We tend to forget that. So anyway, Maggie, would you begin, please?
Thank you. I'm Maggie Blackwell. I was Secretary of United, Chair of Governing Documents, Landscape, and Communication. United needs a corrected vision and better behavior in meetings to move forward to better and more successful oversight and better planning. United is not a regular HOA of 40 privately owned homes. We are a tax-free senior 6,300 unit stock cooperative common interest development, highly regulated by state laws. Bylaws list director duties to set and approve applications for membership and occupancy, handle member disputes and hearings, set assessments and fees. United duties are to promote the health, safety, and welfare of residents, to manage, maintain, preserve, and administer the business of United. Top consideration is the corporation because Corporate Code 7231 requires directors to make decisions in the best interests of the corporation. To do otherwise is legally indefensible. Meetings must follow state laws and Robert's Rules of Order, Bylaws, Article Section 13, Section 2. In a discussion, a director is limited to no more than 2 comments per issue by Robert's Rules. We must stop the chaos of interruptions. Directors should study packages, listen to comments, and make a judgment vote, not a public vote. United has always had a management company, currently VMS. It will take 2 years of planning and a vote of United membership to go to self-management. That is a huge and very serious change. I disagree with that idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Manny, would you state your name and your opening statement, please?
Thank you, moderator. My name is Manny Armendaris, and most people that know me, that I'm friends with, call me Manny. I'm a retired California CPA. I've had extensive experience being the Chief Financial Officer and Accounting Officer for beginning with the Irvine Company after 14 years in public accounting with Coopers and Lybrand. And then next 40 plus years, I have served for many companies in the construction, development, property management, all the fields that VMS is involved in managing the village. And the reason I volunteered to be on this board, which I am currently on, was to lend my expertise and my experience to the board and to VMS. Maybe I have a reputation for being hard on VMS, and that's not intended. In a lot of areas, they do a good job, and I try to help them in that job. Like any organization, they need help. And I try to make the directors a little more active in providing that guidance. And for example, I am real concerned about keeping assessments low. I am concerned with providing the best service, like one that's really critical, like landscaping. And what have I done for the members? Well, starting this month, we are now going to have separate bank accounts for operating funds versus reserve funds. Starting in June of this year, we are now reviewing expenditures out of reserve funds. That was a law that was established in 2007. Before I pursued it, none of the mutuals had ever complied with that requirement. We spent $10 million in United. That's $120 million that was never reviewed by any directors. We are finding areas that need improvement now. That's what I can do for you. Thank you.
And Lenny, would you state your name and your opening?
Yeah. My name is Lenny Ross, and it would be my honor to rejoin the United Board using my experience while on the board as president and treasurer, combined with my corporate executive experience to best serve our community. During my career, I built my reputation as being trustworthy and having high integrity. which resulted in great lifelong business and personal relationships while consistently exceeding sales forecasts. If elected, I will minimize annual increases to already too high association dues. Secondly, I will minimize increases in HOA association dues and increase reserves from any savings derived from the loss of employees and services during this pandemic, and determine how much did the savings amount to this year, and let our members know how much savings there were that will be probably put back into reserves. Push for availability of high number, the last item is push for availability of high number of vaccines to cure coronavirus, because we're getting close to that point. And as we know, we live in a community of very vulnerable and precious members. And so that's what we'll do. I will work closely with VMS to assure our budgets remain under control and we get the best value for all new programs. Briefly, my background was I had a master's in business administration from Arizona State and a bachelor's of science in business administration from University of Southern California. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask each candidate 5 prepared questions, and you'll have 2 minutes you'll only get 1 minute to answer the questions. So I will begin with Maggie. Your question is, what do you think is the most critical issue facing United Mutual, and how would you work to resolve it?
Well, the most critical issue right now is the behavior of the board. It is stumbling all over and fighting all over itself. It is not cohesive. It is not cooperative. It is not reaching consensus. It is at odds. And that is because of the manner meetings are being not run, but meetings are being attended. It is what is happening in the meetings. There is no calm discourse. There is no listing of facts and discussion on one side and then the other. There is simply shouting and shouting and shouting. If we are going to make big changes, we need to have very calm discussion. We could even use some help from people who have done big things before from outside. I would favor that. Any question can be handled if you handle it graciously and professionally.
Thank you. Manny, what skills, resources, and expertise do you have, and how would you use them on behalf of the board?
Thank you. I touched on that in my first comments, but with my real estate, property management, and being a retired California CPA, those are the skills I bring. And it's funny, Maggie should make those comments, because I've attended some of those meetings that she's talking about. And it has not been easy for me to accomplish some of the things that I have accomplished. It's taken me 3 years to finally do it. And it's only because I got the support of some new directors. So that's how important this election is. And what have I done? The separate bank account is very important because there's no more commingling of funds. When it comes to budgeting, I attend all the meetings and I produce spreadsheets that no other director provides. I hate to say it, but Maggie was on the group that wanted me censured for unprofessional conduct in these meetings. I am very vocal and demonstrative, and that shows when I'm working for the members. So I disagree with her comments. Thank you.
All right. Lenny, are there particular areas in which you would like to work to see some change or improvements, and any new ideas you think we all should try?
Yeah. I think my background, which was mainly in finance, will help me with the budgeting process. And when I was on the board before, I remember that there were reserves set for, especially for the co-ops, for all the different things that need to be added to co-ops. whether it be flooring, whether it be refrigerator, whether it be linoleum or carpeting or whatever needs to be upgraded. And what I tried to convince the finance and the accounting groups at the time was that there's been a lot of homes in our community that have been upgraded, and we don't need to set reserves on those homes. And there's probably about 20 to 30% of the houses by now have been upgraded. Yet we still reserve 100% for all of the expenses that need to be taken care of. And so we're spending too much in reserves.
Time has elapsed.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Manny, what do you think is the most critical issue facing United Mutual, and how would you work to resolve it?
It's funny how we keep coming back to the same topic. I feel that besides the COVID-19 right now and making sure everybody follows the rules and practices good, safe procedures, I think the biggest challenge right now continues to exist, and that's the financial burden on the members through the assessments they have to pay. So that usually gets my highest priority. And that's why, beginning 3 years ago, I pushed for observing compliance with what is called Civil Code 5510A and B. And that is where the law requires two directors to approve all expenditures, whether it's $1 or $1,000 out of reserves. And we have just started doing that in June. And I am finding areas where monies could be saved and where procedures need improvement. So again, the focus on budgeting, on the proper use of our money, and I'll come back to that on some improper uses of money that involved $3.9 million. Thank you.
Okay. Maggie, describe how you might handle a resident's complaint.
The way I always do, okay? I ask them, I talk to them, they call me usually, or they hand me a letter or something like that. I go to the resident, I take photos unless I can't. I ask them to send me photos and send me a complaint, their complaint as clearly as possible, and to send it to VMS and order it sent to Mr. Armendaris, who is the current landscape chair, so that they will get special attention by Mr. Armendaris, and that gets it to the department heads and so on. And that's the way I handle it. Usually, I look for the correct committee for it to go to. If they want me to review it myself and I give an extra punch for it, then I do that. But I don't go forward to anything, demand anything from any staff. That's not my place.
Thank you. Lenny, what do you think is the most critical issue facing United Mutual, and how would you work to resolve it?
I think the most critical issue is the issue that we're now facing, which is our pandemic. And it's caused us to be closed down, and all the community centers, all the recreation rooms to be closed down. And there's a lot of fear, a lot of concern by our members who don't know how long this is going to last. And I think that the thing that I would do if I'm elected would be raise the issue to our city council, to our mayor, to our health departments, that as I am just one member out of 18,000 people, but we live in a very vulnerable community, and we should be very high up on the list once we do get the vaccine. And that's what I will be spending some time promoting if I am fortunate enough to be elected.
All right, thank you. I'll have you also tell me how you would handle a resident's complaint.
Okay. Much like Maggie would, I would listen to the resident and let them present their information on their problem, their concern, and I would then take that information and find out who the appropriate committee person was on that committee, whether it be landscaping or some other committee, and then forward that information to that committee with a suggestion based on what I learned from that particular person.
Okay, thank you. Manny, are there particular areas in which you would like to work and see some change or some improvements, and any new ideas you think we all should try?
Thank you. Yes, there are. With my background, of course, I have tried to get myself appointed as treasurer, and I was never successful with that. I don't know whether they're afraid of me or why. But landscaping is another area I was very interested in, and I was on the committee last year, and I'm also the chairperson of that committee this year. And I agree with Maggie that what I find oftentimes is that a member will come to you with a problem or with a concern, and the first thing I ask them is, have you reported that to that department, whether it's landscaping or M&C, through resident services? And oftentimes I find out they haven't. And I try to get other board members to do the same thing when they're passing somebody along to me. And the reason that's important is because that gets you into the system. And then once they don't get satisfactory treatment, then they should come to the chairperson or the member of that committee to follow up on that. And that's how I handle those. And I also go into the members' place unit to help them with those things. So that's how I would handle that.
All right, thank you. Maggie, what do you think, what skills, resources, and expertise do you have, and how would you use them on behalf of the board?
I have speaking skills and I have logical skills, analytical skills. I am an attorney, so I have ability to read a lot of documents and so on, and analyze. So I have the ability to analyze any document that we get as far as directors and to explain it to not only directors but residents. I have the ability to write up things. I have the ability to argue things. I have the ability usually to calm people down and try and get them to speak courteously to each other. I am not a mathematical genius. There is the budget genius, but it is a matter of behavior. You can sell anything if you've got an appropriate behavior. And so we need to be more professional with each other. That is the most important thing we need to be, and I can encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Lenny, what skills, resources, and expertise do you have, and how would you use them on behalf of the board?
Okay, during my career, I was a
Is your mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
During my career, I was program manager and involved with developing accessory programs for the automotive industry. And so I had to work with teams to develop specific products that ended up going into vehicles. And in doing that, that particular ability, along with my finance ability, has given me an ability to communicate very clearly when there's programs being developed and make sure that the programs, all members of the committee involved in the program, support the program from the beginning to the end till it's finished and completed. And so that ability has still, to this day, has helped me with those particular issues. And I think also my finance background has helped as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maggie, what do you think is the most critical issue facing United Mutual, and how would you work to resolve it?
I think that we will get nothing done until we stop cooperating with each other. If we cooperate with each other, we will be able to reach staff, we will be able to run our committees better, we will be able to make better suggestions and review things better. No one has ever been happy that I've heard of in my 16 years here. No one has ever been happy with landscape. No one has ever been happy with any kind of alterations process. No one has ever been happy, except when they get a new ceiling or a new floor or something like that replaced by United, then they're very happy. Otherwise, it's the general nature that the happy ones are quiet, sitting home and smiling, and the other ones are distressed, and so they do that. So I can't urge the happy ones to get outside and yell they're happy, but I understand the distress of some people. Thank you.
Great. And Manny, how would you answer that question? What do you think is the most critical
Thank you, moderator.
issue?
I touched on it slightly in my other remark, but I will devote a little more time to it.
Your mic.
Okay. Can I start again?
Sure.
Thank you. I touched on it lightly in my earlier remark, but I will give you a little more remarks now. Yeah, I have to admit that the biggest problem right now facing the members here is COVID-19. And the reason I want to comment on that is because I really believe VMS is doing all the right things to protect the members. However, at the same time that I say that, I've also been supporting groups out there that have wanted some of the amenities to be opened up sooner. And so I've kind of acted as a mediator between the two of them. VMS has responded by trying to open up some of the facilities that weren't available. We still have a lot of members out there that are concerned about exposure to COVID-19. Likewise, we have a lot of members out there that want more facilities. So I have helped to try to eliminate that. Plus all the other things that I'm doing right now, and that's why I've decided to run again, is to continue my function in financial matters that we need. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and leave your mic on because I'm going to ask you another question.
Right.
How would you handle a resident's complaint?
The way I would handle resident complaints is first, you do need to find out what's bothering them. And you have to determine whether you think it's legitimate or not. And oftentimes, it isn't, but you have to make them happy. So you might recommend to them how they should solve that problem. A lot of times I find that they don't fill out a work order. They go directly to a worker, or they come to you, and they don't use the avenue that's open to them. So I do that first, and by them opening up a work order, then you have it in the channel to get something done. And if they don't get the right attention, and I tell them right up front, if you don't get, come back to me in a couple of weeks, and then I can help you. I can intervene. I can make sure that you get the right treatment, and if you have a legitimate complaint, that it gets taken care of. And I've gone through this. I go out to their manor, I see what the problem is, and I've gotten good results with that. And landscaping right now is one of the big ones, but I have a good rapport with him as a chairman. We're getting a lot of good things done in landscaping that weren't done before. Thank you.
Lenny, what do you think is the most critical issue that is facing United Mutual right now, and how would you work to resolve it?
I think I was already asked that question.
I checked on this, and it seems that they're overlapping, but I don't show it. So if you will bear with me,
I'll
I think
answer it again.
that most of the questions seem to overlap at one point or another. But
Okay. I'll be glad to answer it again. I think the most critical issue that faces our community is the pandemic. And that's why I would agree with Manuel that the pandemic is concerning because our community is very vulnerable. And it's got many people that are of age that have very, very bad results from this pandemic. And so I will spend, if I am fortunate enough to become elected, I'll spend time trying to alleviate some of the concerns of the people by working with the community to help get the community centers reopened again as quickly as we can, as safely as we can, but also make sure that we as a community will be well represented when it's time for the viruses to become available.
okay, Maggie,
The vaccines.
are there particular areas in which you would like to work to see some changes or some improvements, and any ideas, new ideas that you think we should try?
Thank you. Yes, I liked being secretary. I liked being communications chair. I liked being governing documents chair because those are my fields. So I would like to be on those. I think directors sometimes are overwhelmed by the governing documents, as are some residents. It's not an easy topic for them, but if you explain it carefully, they will understand it. So that is where I would like, and I would like to kind of be a mediator, not a meteor, a mediator on the board when things get tough. There are Robert's rules that don't allow interruptions and stuff, and yet they do carry on because they're just overwhelming. It's just a tidal wave. So I would like to be I would like to work out anything where there are two sides. I was a negotiator for 12 years, so I would like
Time
to
collapse.
do that. Thank you.
All right. Now, before you have time to do your closing remarks, which we will do in a moment, President has received questions from the residents. So Becky's going to hand you a list of questions and look them over briefly and decide which ones you would like to answer. And we do have enough time so that you will be answering more than one. And it doesn't matter whether some of you pick the same question to answer, but just look it over briefly, like I said, and I will ask you then to pick a question and read the question and then answer it. All right, let's begin. Maggie, is there a question that jumped off the page for you that you'd like to answer? And if you read the question first and then answer it.
Are there any guiding principles that you would use in trying to solve some of the problems in our mutual? Yes, I would get a hold of, if someone were having a problem, I would say get a hold of an advisor and put forth the problem from two sides, see what's going on. If it's a fight over whether we can have one kind of management or another, that definitely needs to be reviewed by all kinds of people before the issue even comes up to us, because the question is, can a co-op do that? Can a co-op within a CID do self-management? So you need to do a study or to look over the problem, and then I would go to list the things from one side, list the things from the other, and see how we can meet the needs of both sides and come up with a tidy product that will last and endure and not bother us anymore.
Okay, thank you. Manny, do you have a question? And would you read the question that you are going to answer?
Yes, how much time do we have on this question?
A minute.
1 minute, okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, what question?
The question is number one, are there any guiding principles that you would use in trying to solve some of the problems of our mutual? Yes, there are some. When you first become a director, the legal counsel and let's call it seasoned directors try to convince you that you kind of need a hands-off procedure policy when you deal with VMS. And I totally don't agree with that. They'll cite a statement like, well, you know what, your responsibility as a director is strictly to base your decisions on what is called the business judgment rule. And that means that you rely on the experts. And VMS has experts. Or they might say, you know, who's your loyalty to? And the answer you're supposed to give is to the corporation. Well, those two together are not the way I look at my job. My job is to do the best I can for the members. And if you're loyal to the members, you will be loyal to the corporation, and you will be doing the best thing you can for VMS. So that's how I think we should do our job. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lenny, do you have a question there that you want to answer?
Yeah, number 6, what is the best way to get competitive lenders for co-op loans? So as we know, there is one bank that currently loans for co-ops, it's National Co-op Bank. And their rates are about 1 to 1.5% more than any other rates that there are the given rates for condos. And so I think that we would have a tremendous opportunity if we welcomed other banks. However, they would have to agree with the guarantee that National Co-op Bank that says that if any homeowner goes in arrears on their homeowner fees, that the bank would pick it up. The bank would pay for that. And if they did agree to that, then I would welcome the consideration of other banks to offer that service, because we need to be more competitive in that area.
Great, thank you so much. Maggie, you have another question?
Okay. Number 5, landscaping has come in for much criticism. How should it be improved? It has been greatly improved over the last 3 years, but you could always run an efficiency study. They used to do it, and I have 2 old ones. They were done every 5 years or so, and they would come around and check. That will help. That way you get an outside company coming in to look. It may be VMS that says that they are looking at, doesn't matter. It was PCM before. You get an outside expert for United to come out and look at the landscape and make a report, or actually for the whole village, and make a report on it and see if there are any saving ways that could be handled. If we're short-staffed, we're short-staffed. But other saving ways, we have had no efficiency reports in the last 5 years that I know of. And I think it's time every now and then to get another good one and get some experts to look at things. That's why I like advisors on committees with experience. Thank you.
Manny, another question?
Thank you. Yes. Question number 7, it says, what would you like to succeed in doing on the board for 2021? The reason I decided to be a candidate again this year is to finish some of the work that I've begun. And I wasn't able to get much done until this year, and that's because finally the board was comprised of directors that will only support some of the things that I was trying to accomplish. And so I have some of those. I can't tell you the details other than, for example, besides the separate bank account, besides reviewing reserve expenditures, I have already been informed that refunds to members that should have been made years back for property taxes are going to be taken care of. That's all I can tell you on it. No other director has pursued this issue. There are issues that I have pursued that other directors haven't been able to accomplish, like the separate bank accounts. This review of expenditures out of reserves, that's been the law for over 12 years, never even considered by any of the directors. So I have a lot of these things that I hope to accomplish in 2021 as well. Thank you.
And Lenny, another question?
Number 4, how would you like to see cost cutting handled? Specifically for this year, because we've been under this pandemic, we've saved quite a bit of money in our expenses versus what was budgeted. I'd like to know how much money we have saved for 2020. When it comes time for me to get on the board, I'd like to find out for the year, how much was that savings? Was it 100,000? Was it $1 million? Whatever it was should be applied against the costs for next year or put into the reserves. So I would like to take a real close look at that if I am fortunate enough to become on the board.
All right, thank you. Maggie, another question?
Okay. What areas in VMS need the most improvement? I have no idea. Okay, I was on the communication committee for GRF, and I heard reports every month from one section of VMS or the other, and they went over all the improvements, but I have not been on those, and they have not had those this year, so I do not know. So I like the reports that tell us, and I like to share them with other people. There is so much that goes on in that committee about everything that would be a really important one. That's the communication committee. I think we need an old style report like Jerry's storage of PCM used to give. And in the boardroom, I think every month we need to know what project is ongoing and what's next and what status it is. I like flow charts. I like to know exactly where everything is and where it should be going. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Manny, another question.
Yes, thank you. Question number 4, how would you like to see cost cutting handled? I love this one. This one deserves a lot of attention because most directors rely totally on VMS, and VMS does a good job of trying to come up with a reasonable budget. But that's not the issue. The issue is that as directors, we should be diligent in doing our due diligence on these items. And that means really questioning the expenses as to whether they're necessary or not. And that's what we're doing now in looking at reserve expenditures. For the first 7 months of this year, there was $4 million saved in reserve expenditures because of COVID-19. And when we went through the budget, since our basic assessment is not going up, our assessment for insurance, which is a separate line item, will be going up by 2 to 3 times as much as last year. And so I proposed that we reduce the assessment for reserves because we saved that $4 million. We could have reduced that by $26 a month, which is about 1.9, not even half of the months we saved. And that's still open. We may still pass that. That's what
Okay.
I'm pushing for.
Thank you. Lenny, another question, please.
Do you think we are spending too much in what areas? And I think we are spending too much, specifically in the areas where we invest money in our reserves for specific appliances, specific flooring, and as I explained before, we should not be reserving for people who have already upgraded their manners, and therefore, and it's fairly obvious that probably about 20 to 30% of the manners have been upgraded. Yet we reserve 100%, and we provide 100% reserves on all those items every year. We should modify that, and we would end up saving quite a bit of money.
Okay, thank you. Maggie, another question?
Let's see. Well, the contingency fund is only spent when you need it. What is the amount you think we need? I think we need the amount we've always had. I don't think we need any more. I think our budgeting is sufficient for most items unless something dreadful happens. So as I say, I believe in experts. I believe in it. The little bit you might spend on an expert evaluation can save you hundreds of thousands. So I think it's important that we do that. So I would say, what do I think of the, shall I give another, oh no, my time is up. Okay, cost cutting needs to be done with tweezers, not a hatchet. Mm-hmm. You use a hatchet and you're sorry forever. You use tweezers and you might have to tweeze again, but you'll never lose the item. Thank you.
All right. Manny, another question, please.
Yes, I'd like to take the same one that Maggie just did about the contingency fund.
Okay.
We have tossed this around in our recent meetings, and the reason why it seems to be a problem is because the fund is not well understood. It was formed from extra monies available from operations, and this fund was created for that. And it was created to pay for unexpected or unbudgeted type of expenditures. And we used a lot of this money for water intrusion, but prior to that, there was a time when the contingency fund, which is now just under $1 million, was about $6 million. And almost $3.9 million of that was used to fund the solar panel project, which has not been successful. Right now, we're only earning less than 1.5%. We'd be better with the money in the bank or in bonds. I hate to say it, but one of our candidates here voted for that. He signed the contract for that. So we need to monitor these things better. Thank you.
Thanks. And Lenny, would you like to address another question?
what areas in VMS need the most improvement. I would suggest VMS does a survey of the community and ask them what areas are we doing well in and what areas do we need improvement in. And whether that be landscaping or whether it be maintenance or whatever those areas are, I think the feedback should come back to VMS, and based on that feedback, they should look into the possibility of hiring some outside companies to do the services that our members are not satisfied with, or at least improving the services that they're currently getting. So I think that they should go to the trouble of going through a survey, submitting that to our entire population, and based on the results, then enact a program where either we consider more outside help for those particular areas, or improve the services we're currently providing.
Thank you. Mackie, you have another question to answer.
Okay, this one only affects some people. There seem to be unending delays and changes from VMS and alterations to get permits. Don't color me surprised. Okay, the city has changed its permits. It changes the way we get them. It changes the number of people that are working on them, the number of inspectors they have, the hours they work, et cetera, et cetera. It is incredibly difficult to get something done very quickly over there, but you can get it done. What is the problem? What do I intend to do about it? Well, we can all only gripe because it is the city's problem. It is not our desk problem. It is when you want to get a permit, it takes a long time, inordinately long, so be patient, chew your nails. But, or squawk, but it won't help. You have to squawk over there. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Manny, another question, please.
Thank you. I'm going to take number 3, what areas in VMS need the most improvement? I believe where they need some major improvement is in what they like to call as transparency. I think when there's an area that has a problem, they aren't as open and honest with the members as they should be. I mentioned the solar panel project. Like I said, we're getting a terrible return on that. The only reason I know all this information is because I probed, I pushed, and I finally got the answer. And when a director like me takes his role that seriously, then he gets reprimanded. He gets censured. I was censured twice last year as a director. That means I couldn't attend meetings for 30 days the first time, 90 days the second time. That's because I'm outspoken. And again, VMS needs to recognize when somebody's trying to do some good for the community and not try to block them. Accept them as they are, trying to help the community. So these are where they need improvement. Overall, they're doing a pretty good job, but they need to recognize when somebody's trying to do the right thing and not try to silence them. Thank you.
Sure. And Lenny, another question, please.
Are there any guiding principles that you would use in trying to solve some of the problems of our mutual? I think the main thing is to communicate clearly, to be honest with your other members on the board, and to make sure that you work together closely as a group to try to come up with solutions. I think that those 3 things are the most important items to take care of when you're trying to solve problems.
Okay, thank you. Should we begin the 2-minute closing? All right. So you'll have 2 minutes for your closing statements, and we will begin with Maggie.
Okay, as to the break with VMS problem, for which there is a person putting out flyers in the village as we speak. United cannot break from VMS in the village and hire all outside contractors. We cannot do that. We are a co-op. We are inside within a CID. That means we break with VMS. We have no equipment of any kind, no replacement fixtures, no building repairs, no roofing, no labor for our co-op problems, no compliance department. We must hire outside security, I wonder, because we can't use VMS security. We need a railing fixed, how to match and find a new one, replace, paint it, then fix concrete, all billable, and how many workers must we bring in for that? Who pays for the unit plumbing worker, the original or alter? Who calls for a company for my unit? Well, you cannot turn us into condos without a very great long process, and every single unit must go into escrow, and that takes a lot of money and a lot of time. It is a terrible process. We are a co-op. I do not believe we can do within the village our own self-management. We would have to pay all labor costs for work inside and outside our units. Suppose you needed a garbage disposal replaced and you have the original like I have. Who do you call? What do you do? So we would be paying for it twice, or do we tell VMS we need to get it out of the shed up there, but we have to have Tony's Plumbing come in to install it? How does this work? It doesn't work for condos. It works for condos. It doesn't work for co-ops. We're a whole different thing. This issue of co-ops under self-management is a whole different picture than if we were condos. And we are inside the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Manny, your 2-minute closing remarks?
Thank you. This, to me, is a very important election, and it's because I have some issues that I want to complete that are important to the village. And I recommend the members out there be really careful who you vote for. There are only 2 other candidates that I can support, and that would be Riza Astani, that was in the first session, and Azar Askari, because I know they will support me in what I'm trying to accomplish. I can't say that for any other directors. As far as the management, I want to clarify that too. VMS overall is doing a pretty good job. And the question of whether or not use an outside management company or use VMS, we have used an outside management company, PCM. And now VMS is doing it all. And what I want to make clear there is that we still use outside contractors. It's just that VMS is responsible for the management, whether it's by internal employees or by outside contractors. And one of the big issues that I have is that we have a $110 million budget each year, and over 55% of that is employee cost and related expenses. We see nothing on that when we approve the budget. So again, that's transparency. In our new management agreement that we're almost finalized, we will get some of that information for the top level employees. So right now under VMS, our roofing is done through an outside contractor. Our painting is done with inside employees. Landscaping is done by both. We have contracted out slope maintenance, some of the tree removals and so on with outside contractors. Most of it we do with employees. So I want to clarify that as far as outside companies and so on. So my closing remarks again, please listen to who I'm recommending. Just those 2 other candidates besides myself. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lenny, would you like to give us your closing remarks?
Yes. It would be my honor to rejoin the United Board and use my prior United Board experience as president and treasurer, combined with my corporate executive experience, to best serve our community. Please vote for the team that is trustworthy, fiscally responsible, and have the ability to get things done. And I think that that team entails Cash Akrakar, Maggie Blackwell, and myself, Lenny Ross. Please take this opportunity to vote. Last election, out of 6,323 United resident owners who had the ballots mailed to them, only 1,500 returned their ballots, and 500 of the 1,500 ballots were not accepted because the envelopes were not signed by the resident owners, which left only 1,000 people who were eligible and voted correctly. Please keep in mind and note, to have an official vote, we must receive at least a 15% quorum. Of 6,323, that means 948 votes. We had 1,000, so it was officially okay. But can you believe that only 16% of our members or resident owners voted in the last election? If you care about your community, and want to make sure life in Laguna Woods continues to get better and better, we need the best candidates elected and therefore need you all to vote. Once you get your ballots, and remember to sign your envelopes. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time you provided.
All right, thank you all. All right, then, Cash, would you go ahead and start, introduce yourself, and
Please turn your mic on.
and then 2 minutes, if you would, Cash. Mask off, please. You go ahead and start, Cash.
Yes.
Mask.
Good afternoon, friend. I'm going to take my mask off because the moderator is asking me to take it out. She
Yeah.
can't hear me clearly.
Yes.
So my name is Cash Akrakar. Some of you probably already know me because I've been on the board for like 3.5 years out of about 4 years of stay in this beautiful gateway to heaven. My objective is to make this place better than what it is today. And I have several goals that I have put together. I have experience. I've been volunteering for more than about 39, 40 years. And my biggest achievement was when 3 homes in my community slid down the hill in Anaheim Hills. I took the association in my hand, got the mayor involved, got FEMA involved, and made them spend over $2 million to stabilize our community, or nobody was even financing our homes. So that is what got me, when I came here, on the agenda to be on a board on the United. What is my accomplishment so far? Well, you already know the revitalized handyman program. That was somewhat of my brainchild, but with the help of the team, and I'm a very good team player always, we got that program revived, and instead of going about 170,000 in the hole in 2017, 2018, we found someone, a company that employed college kids, and $25 an hour is what it costs whenever you want it. So, I've accomplished a few things. I will talk about my goals in the closing statement because the time is running out. But I do have what it takes to lead. I do have what it takes to be in the chair again. And I'm asking your support to vote me again for another 3 years to finish some of my goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. Azar, 2 minutes to introduce yourself and some opening remarks, please.
Thank you so much. First of all, before I should start, I should say wish you happy birthday, and I hope you have enough time to enjoy your day after this. My name is Azar Askari. I have lived in this beautiful. I fell in love the moment I arrived. Should start
Yeah.
all over again. Can you put that time in? Thank you. Sorry, the microphone wasn't on. First, I want to wish you a happy birthday and hope you have enough time this evening to enjoy your special day. My name is Azar Askari. I have lived in this community for 5 years. I fell in love in this community the moment I arrived because of their nature. And later, when I saw my neighbors, when I went to many different clubs, I fell in love with diversity of this community. Maybe because I have lived in Asia, I have lived in Europe and North America. That's why here is look like a real home for me. I am offering my 30 years professional background to the board in 2 very strong subjects. One is mathematics and another is business management. Mathematics gifted me with critical thinking, problem solving, and finding the shortest way and direct way to the goal. On the other hand, business management taught me for any plan, any project, make plan first. Make sure you know your deadline. Make sure you know what is the source of your fund before you jump it on that one. So this really is very important for any project. If I elected, I will be a great asset for the board because I have a very critical view of seeing very detailed things and finding details in any project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Riza, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, introduce yourself, please, and then you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
My name is Azar Astani, and I've been living here since 2010. I've been going door to door and asking people to vote for me, and I found out that the residents are complaining about the following issues. Services provided by VMS are inadequate, alteration process is slow and unfair to residents, there's too much waste and inefficiency, board assigned committees are ineffective, scope of work created by VMS benefits the contractor, and there is no transparency in board and VMS operation. I have had 37 years experience in engineering and maintenance, and I can bring that to the board. If elected...
Can you please read your statement again?
Start again?
Yes, please.
Today, my name is Riza Astani. I've lived here since 2010. I've been going door to door and asking residents to vote for me, and I found out that the residents are complaining about the following issues. Services provided by VMS are inadequate, alteration process is slow and unfair to residents. There are too much waste and inefficiency in the operation of the village. The board committees are ineffective. Scope of work created by VMS benefits the contractor. There is no transparency in board and VMS operations. I have had 37 years experience in engineering and maintenance that I can bring this experience to the board. And if selected, I intend to resolve these following issues. I want to give a brief history of the VMS for those who are not aware of it. VMS entity was created by lawyers when PCM left. They copied PCM contact without changing it to suit VMS. They created the VMS agreement or contract which delineates PCM duties and rights. This contract protects VMS by indemnity clause, which means if they do anything wrong, board must hire an attorney, protect them, and pay for the damages. But they have the right to sue and the directors if they feel that they're interfering and asking questions about their operation. VMS has no money, no bank account. They use board account to pay for the expenses. But they have the right to sue the directors. If I am selected, I will try to resolve these issues.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the prepared questions. You will have 1 minute to answer the question that I asked you, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the first question for you, Reza, is what is it that the United Board does or should it be doing?
The United Board should be providing services through VMS to the residents.
Anything else you want to elaborate on?
Yes, they should also be appointing committees to make decisions on critical issues like alteration, maintenance, construction, and other affairs.
Thank you. Cash. The board are part-time volunteers who serve a brief term. The staff organization are full-time professionals, many of long service, who see board members come and go. What do you think are the best strategies for our boards in dealing with this relationship?
Great question. Staff is hired by the village to serve.
Mic is on.
Mic is on.
Got to have a mic on. Okay.
Let's start again.
Yes.
Well, the staff is all hired by the United and Third Mutual and the other boards, including GRF, under the umbrella of VMS, Village Management Services. Their job is to serve and make this place better. Our job as directors is not to conduct or tell them how to do things. It's our job to tell them what to do and what we need in the village. We are not managing them. We are directing them. We are directors. We have to be hands-off, totally hands-off, but we have to understand how the village functions. We have to watch every single cent that is spent. We have to watch every action that is done, and that is where the United Mutual board members come in, to make sure we do that. Our job is to serve the clients, and our job is to maintain this place. Thank you.
Thank you. Azar, how will you react if your initiative does not get the board support?
I strongly believe a board is acting like a body. The whole board is a body. If we are cutting back different parts of the bodies, then definitely the body cannot properly work. I will, if it is against me, I will strongly say my vote. But I am strongly believe in team working as well. So if majority going to that way, is the residents should make their director accountable for the vote that they are giving to the board, to the project. So definitely I will work with the majority.
Thank you. All right, Cash, as a member of the United Mutual community, what, if any, are complaints you may have heard about from other residents, and what is your first impression of how we should go about handling them?
Good question. Everybody has lots of complaints. Everyone has complaints because we have plenty of free time. We are all retired people. But some of them are really genuine and they should be addressed. Things such as, the place is not clean, the landscaping needs improvement when you see no more Roundup and there's lots of weeds in their yards. True, these things need to be addressed. It's our job to take the complaints and answer some of the complaints. Some of the complaints come from not knowing. So it's my job to let them understand what we do here on our free time, which is really not just the meetings. I, on an average, spend more than 30 hours a week. I work till 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, and I get up at 6:30. And most of my time goes for United work.
Thank you. Riza, are there particular areas in which you would like to work to see some change or some improvements? Any new ideas you think we should all try?
Yes, the areas that we need to work and improve are services to the residents and most of all alteration process, which I believe is unfair and too lengthy and not proper. So I would like to see that change. And I would do anything I like with the experience I have in maintenance and construction for 37 years to achieve that if I'm elected again. Thank you.
Thank you. Azar, what is it that the United Board does or should it be doing?
United Board actually.
Mike, please.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. The board is a policy-making body of the association. So basically, board making all decision about how to maintaining the manures or laundries or how write down how much check for each one and rolling alls. So board is the policy making how to run the association.
Okay. And while your mic is still on, you want to answer,
Sure.
are there particular areas in which you would like to work to see some changes or some improvements made and any new ideas that you might like to try?
I have been out for the first time campaigning and I heard a lot. So 1 minute is not enough. You should give me more than 1 minute. Well, what I heard, majority was alteration. And because people waiting too long for getting a permit while paying association fee. And that's the one thing. And now there was a parking lot issue that is getting really, really worse. Number 3 was landscaping. These are I am saying because I heard a lot about that. And number 4 was some creature like mosquitoes or a rat and this stuff in the community that must be really paying attention, especially in this COVID-19 is not very nice to have rat around. Yes, I heard about this problem a lot.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cash, how will you react if your initiative does not get the board's support?
There are times that the rest of the board went one way and I voted no. But that doesn't mean I should keep on insisting. Once the board decides, I have to obey, I have to follow, because that is the decision made by a majority. I will obey, follow the rule, to the point that I will be very faithful in doing so. But if the board has made a decision which was not ethical, I will mention it to the rest of the board members, saying, hey, this is not ethical, we have to look at it again. And there are occasions when we have changed the particular vote. One thing right now, I'm working on, kind of preview here, is we have only one NCB bank funding our association. That rule came up and went down, came up and went down. But I'll talk more later on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Riza, the board are part-time volunteers who serve a brief term. The staff organization are full-time professionals, many of long service, who see board members come and go. What do you think are the best strategies for our boards in dealing with this relationship?
That's a very important question that you're asking. A board cannot deal directly with VMS because the relationship is defined in VMS agreement. And this agreement is being lopsided and it doesn't favor the board. It gives the right for VMS to do anything they like, and if they do something wrong, the indemnity clause protects them. The board has to hire an attorney, protect them. If they lose, the board has to pay for it because VMS doesn't have a bank account, doesn't have money, and its board has to pay for it. In that sense, the board members their hands are tied. They can't do very much. The only way is to revise VMS agreement.
Thank you. Azar, I'm going to ask you that same question. The board are part-time volunteers who serve a brief term. The staff organization are full-time professionals. Many have long service where the board members come and go. What do you think are the best strategies for our boards in dealing with this particular relationship?
This relationship is happen everywhere. So some people are temporary, some people go for a little bit longer. If the rules of each one will be very clear, there wouldn't be any problem. The problem right now, I have a glance on the some rules that VMS running is a board supposed to order them. Is somehow in some meeting that I watch, it was vice versa. So in that case, if the board knows what they stand and exactly goes by their power, and then VMS follow them, there shouldn't be any problem at all. And the next person, next director comes is gonna follow exactly the same road that the previous goes.
Thank you. Riza, as a member of the United Mutual community, what, if any, are complaints you may have heard about from other residents? And what is your first impression of how we should go about handling them?
The complaints that I've heard, I said in my opening statement, are mainly about the services are inadequate and alteration process is too long and is unfair to the residents. And this is the main thing that they have complained, and this has to be resolved by changing BMS agreement and making the agreement so that the board has the authority to execute and tell VMS what they want, not to manage them, but give them the objectives and let them manage the objective and do it the way they like. Thank you.
Thank you. Cash, what is it that the United Board does or should it be doing?
Wow, great question. What United
Mike?
does? I always forget, 6 months since I used that again. So. What United does is to maintain this great dream that a guy named Roscoe Tisi had 50 plus years ago to create this community. It's our job to take this dream, last for another 50, 100 years, whatever. We have to keep the people happy. We have to make sure the buildings, the structure, everything is in good shape, and that it is managed properly. But we are not going to tell the staff that we hire on how to do it. We are going to tell them what to do. There's much difference between governing and managing. We are governing, more like governing what is going on in the village. That's what United does. Our loyalty is for United Laguna Woods Mutual, but is also supported and for the residents of United Mutual. So it's a two-way process. Thank you.
All right. Turn your mic back on because I have another question. Are there particular areas in which you would like to work to see some changes or some improvements? Any new ideas you think we all should try?
Well, the community has been around for 50 plus years, and we are made up of retired people mostly. Most of them bring with them 30, 40 years of experience, all kinds of experience, and then they take it to the grave. Most of them don't want to do anything, agreed, but there are a few who want to leave a legacy and give this knowledge that they have. I want to take that effort. I've been trying to hammer on GRF, but it hasn't worked, and I've been hammering on outside people, in politics, hasn't worked, but it will work. I'm not going to give up. So one of my objectives is to get this knowledge database to increase the local GDP at Orange County levels by helping local industry, local businesses, local schools, teaching, whatever. For return, for legacy, a lot of people here are willing to cooperate.
Thank you. Azar, as a member of the United Mutual community, what, if any, are complaints you may have heard about from other residents? And what is your first impression of how we should go about handling them?
I think you asked that question, but I answer again if you want. As I said in the previous question that you asked the same, it was alteration, majority that people really ask and complain about landscaping a lot. And most of that I wanted to say to add to that is this community is more than half a century old. We should start quickly thinking about how to prevent these manners. Otherwise, later we have to pay a lot to cover for aging all the buildings. So when you pay a lot, that means HOA keep going up and pay for that. So money is not growing from the trees. It's better united board quickly acting on aging of all the buildings and manners in this community for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Reza, how will you react if your initiative does not get the board support?
I will have to abide by what the board decides. So I will agree to, at the time, to what board decides. Then I will try to convince the other directors in time to see the point of view that I am presenting and hopefully convince them to bring this to the table again later and trying to resolve it by another vote later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, before we do our closing statements, we have gotten some questions from the residents, and Becky's going to be handing you the page with those questions. I want you to take a few seconds, you won't have minutes, a few seconds to look them over, and then we will ask if there's one of them that you would like to address, and we'll kind of do that. We'll start with Reza and move to Cash and then Azar. So take a look at them real quickly, and if you see one that you would like to address to answer the question, we will do that in a little bit, and you'd only have a minute to be able to answer that.
I'd like to appreciate all the questions I've received from the community, but I did make some alterations. First of all, I've tried to eliminate parts of the question that may be of personal nature. This is a public forum, and I'd like to respect everyone's privacy. Also, I want to be fair to the candidates and for everyone who may be listening. So I've tried to shape the questions so that every candidate may have an opportunity to address any of the questions being asked. We will proceed by having each candidate take a few minutes to give us their thoughts on any or all of these issues raised by the community. I apologize ahead of time if I've mutilated any submitted questions beyond recognition, but I've tried to present the gist of the question. So if the person would read the question that they're going to answer and then give their answer, I'd appreciate it. If there's any questions that do not get read, I will go over them at the end. Thank you.
Okay. Reza, would you like to start? With one of those questions or a couple of those questions that you'd like to address, make sure that your mic... put your mic on, please. Turn your mic on.
Number 12.
Okay. Would you read the question?
How should we handle the problem of property maintenance and improvement to the standards wanted by our new resident, given the limited budget of our old resident?
Okay, go ahead and answer.
As we know, these units are 50 years old and they need repair. And to do the repair, we need to provide alteration. And the alteration process, as I've said before, is lengthy and unfair and to the residents. And unless that is changed, we cannot achieve much. Regarding property maintenance, the problem we have is that most of the people in VMS, they come from city background. City background manages a city. We don't have a city here, we have houses. So they are not good in handling the houses and management. They have to get new people that they are experienced in that. That's the only way I see that it can be resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cash, do you have a question that you'd like to answer?
Yes, I do. I will go to question number 6, which says, what is the best way to get competitive lenders for co-op loans? Co-ops are now only funded by a loan, not a mortgage, but a loan with a company called NCB, National Cooperative Bank. There are many other institutions, such as Plaza being one, that do fund co-ops. But we have to look a little bit beyond and see what does NCB do with the loans. They don't just fund and sit on it, they sell it to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. And so we have to follow or abide by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines. And just last week, I got my hands on some of the things, and there are things there that don't quite jive with what we say. And we got to do this. As a teamwork, we have to do this. So then we can open the flood of people coming our way. I'm working on it. That's one of my goals.
All right, thank you. Azar, is there a question that you'd like to answer?
Yes, I would love to answer number 3, which is very important to me. What area in VMS need the most improvement? The VMS needs to improve and make all departments be aligned and know from each other. If that's happened, we are saving on the time, we are saving on the money. I personally received from one subject 5 certified letters the same. So can you imagine not the money that they posted, the worker that stand up and printed and send it? Because they are not knowing from each other. The left hand doesn't know the right hand in VMS. So with this, we are living in USA, the head of the world, and with the high technology, all we needed a 2 nice software that they put, and if the number A send a letter, number B doesn't send that one again. So this is bring lots of money to VMS and saving cutback in the extra expenses that I am mentioning that VMS spending a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we do have some time, I believe, so we can go around and take another question and answer that. So Riza, would you like to answer another one of those questions on that sheet?
Can you ask somebody?
Sure. Cash, is there another one that you would like to answer on that sheet?
There is one that I'm kind of debating. Well, I take one. Question number 13. Question 13 on second page says, there seems to be unending delays and changes from VMS and alterations to get permits, causing a tremendous amount of frustration throughout the community. What is the problem, and what do we intend to do about it? Now, I want to eliminate the effect of COVID here, because COVID has sent people home, and we don't have a full staff working all the time. But what we can do is to have a system of replying to people when they call. As a first thing, saying, hey, we have problems, it may be a little delay. Communicate. That's one of the major problems. Also, we do have a very well-trained staff, but we also have, we are like a city by itself. So we have a city office doing things and our city office doing same thing over again. Maybe there's a possibility that some of these efforts could be cut and brought together. Maybe we can make a standard plan as to different things, like we had started earlier, but it's still open. Thank you. A lot of things can be done.
Azar, another question you'd like to answer? Mike?
Yes, number 11. How transparent should members of the board be when bringing up issues which would primarily benefit their own personal interests? To me, is 100%. When the board is a volunteer job, they are coming to serving the resident. Residents of the Laguna would put their trust on any director or any people that they are in the board. If the project comes and someone in the board get a personal interest in that one, it must be 100% clear for residents why they are choosing that one. To me, is very important. And if that be actually clear, the trust of residents is going to be more on the director and more on the board, and they can work together better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Riza, are you ready now with the question? And make sure your mic is on.
Yes. I can take number 3 again. What
Sure.
areas
Yeah.
in BMS needs the most improvement? As I've said before, I think alteration needs the most improvement because the units are old in this village. They need to be repaired to make it habitual, and the only way to do it is through alteration. But the alteration process is too long, lengthy, and unfair to residents. They have to be revised by VMS to make it fair, and I don't see any movement in that direction now. And I have expressed this throughout the board. 3 years I've been in here, and I haven't achieved anything. I hope this will be achieved later, maybe in next year. Thank you.
Cash, you ready for another one?
Yes. Question number 7. What would you like to succeed in doing on the board in 2021? Well, I've set up several goals. One of the goals I will discuss here is what I opened the last discussion on co-ops to get more funding possibilities. I'm working on, and I'm about, I would say, a month away, maybe 2 months away, to present to the board what I'm talking about. And if the board goes with it, that'll be the first cut that we probably could revise with the help of our lawyer, the contract. And maybe there'll be 2 or 3 companies that will come our way, because all the companies now are doing mostly mortgage loans, but some of them are doing co-ops. Those who are doing co-ops are more than likely to come to us if we can tailor our language, if we can tailor what we do to fit what the rules are for Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Azar?
I will take number 15. Under what circumstance would you resign from the board before your term is over? I strongly believe in ethics, justice, and fairness. If the board goes way over of this alignment, I think I cannot handle and stay and see what board make decision for residents. I will resign. However, after I resign, I will tell to residents why. Why, what was the reason, and what kind of decision the board making there. The board must really use in the right way the trust that resident put in their hand. So in that case, a resident knows why I am resigning.
Thank you. Reza, another one? Another question?
Yeah, I will take number 2.
Read the question, please.
Do you think we are spending too much in what areas? I think we are spending too much in maintenance and construction area. There's a lot of issues in maintenance and construction that cost a lot of money. One of the main ones I have noticed is that the scopes of work written are normally done so that it benefits the contractors and not the residents. They make plans that they are shelved later, we pay them, we don't use them, we go to another contractor to redo the same thing, and it comes back again. And we keep on spending money after money on something that it goes on the shelf and nothing is achieved. That's one of the main issues that we can maybe minimize. Thank you.
Thank you. Cash, another question?
I'm ready for another one. The question number 15. Under what circumstances would you resign from the board before your term is over? If someone comes walking through that door with an AK-45 or whatever you call that thing, I will duck. And if he fires and says, stand up, I have to stand up, I'll stand up. He says, resign, then I'll resign. But under no other circumstances, look for my resignation. And I'm addressing that to our president. I will not resign because I'm a team player. A team player always plays with the team and the rules. I'm very ethical and straightforward person. I will mention if I have any grievances and try to clear the grievances, but I will not resign. I may not stand for another election, but I won't resign. Thank you.
Azar, is there another question you'd like to
I would
ask?
like to answer number 1. Are there any guiding principles that you would use in trying to solve some of the problems of our mutual? The best that I can suggest it is make priority. Priority, if you are not making plan, as I said, my background in business management, the plan is the first things that you have to do. Priority, we are living in more than half a decade's community. All aging of infrastructure is coming up. If you are not acting right now, I am telling you right now, in 10 years, association should go over 1,500 to cover this cost. We have to start right now when it's not very high. So in that case, we can stop. Yes, ahead of the time, make priority, make a plan, and go for that before waiting too long and putting the burden on the resident and get the HOA up. Thank you.
Thank you. Reza, is there another question you'd like to answer?
Yeah, I will also take Number 1 again. Guiding principles. Are there any guiding principles that you would use in trying to solve some of the problems of our mutual? Yes, I would like to stress on fiduciary duties of the board members. If they remember that and they apply it, and make sure that they are thinking about the residents and their interests in everything that they're doing, watching the money, budget, maintenance, alteration, etc. That may make a great difference in the overall performance of the village. That's one of the guiding principles that I think is very important, and I would adhere to it, and like everybody else, to think about it very carefully. Thank you.
Cash, we're back to you. Another question?
I will try to tackle question number 14 on second page. As you're probably aware of, the City of Laguna Woods has an affordable housing element written into its general plan, conforming to California directive. What do you think should the village's relationship to the city in addressing this issue? Interesting question. I think it's coming down the pipeline that we allow the Section 8 type people. I'm kind of studying the ifs, efforts, and against of that thing at this time. But I think, proper scrutiny, proper procedure could be put in. And city and us are not different people. 97% of the city is us. So whatever city says, I think we should really study carefully as to what their proposal is. I haven't looked at it. But if there are some points that we do not agree, we should take that out and go along. And I will be ready to do that when we are really facing that question. Yes, we got to stay together with the city. We are part of the city, or 97% of the city is us. So it's an interesting thing coming down the pipeline, guys. Get ready.
Azar?
I would like to notice number 5. Landscaping has come in for much criticism. How should it be improved? To my view, the first thing is gathering the data. I strongly believe in gathering data, analyzing data, then put it to the work. So why not putting an open or 1 week or 2 weeks that residents says which area they have problem. If I am in the board and only see my area, that might not work for the other area. Let residents tell you which area they wanted, what is the problem. When we gather the data, we bring it, prioritize which one is more important, we have to start it and put money on that one, and then start. Making plan for that based on real data, not based on what we wanted or what we like it or what my neighbor wants. We are a community together, should works for everyone. Thank you.
Riza, we're back to you. Would you like to answer another question?
How many questions are we have to answer?
Time is dictating that. We have until 2:30, or are we? So, okay, let's stop now because we do want to give you 2 minutes to have closing remarks. So, Riza, do you want to, we better not because we're kind of in a tight area.
I can handle one more, number 12.
Okay.
I answered the 2 questions, the property maintenance, which I answered, and the second one is about standards. I'd like to tackle that now.
From what I'm hearing, we don't have the time right now, but we do want you to give us your closing remarks. So maybe you can include some of that in your closing remarks, the answer to that, or do you already have, because we're ready for our closing remarks. You have 2 minutes to give us your closing remarks.
Yes, I can start with my closing remarks now. All that I've said, and I've heard other directors and candidates have said here, relates to, in my opinion, to VMS management agreement, which is VMS contract, in which we delineate the scope of work and duties of our VMS. I believe that's the key to all the questions and resolutions that we have addressed. We need to revise this agreement to suit United. The present agreement was done by lawyers. They copied what was on PCM agreement, and a lot of it does not apply to VMS, and that's why it's created a lot of confusion. We have to include in that a new agreement, if we revise it, incentive for VMS to increase their efficiency. That is the only way. When the efficiency increases, the cost comes down, and as a result, the assessment comes down. Without that, it will be ever-ending increase in expenses, cost, and as a result, increase in assessment. In my mind, that's the main thing that has to be addressed, and that's why I'm putting it in my closing remarks. I believe that is the key to solving all the problems that me and other directors have presented in this forum. Thank you.
Okay, Cash, would you like your 2 minutes?
Closing statement.
Closing statement, yes.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to us for so long. I am going again one more time. My main objective is to keep things simple because it's very easy to understand that way. That's how we came up with the handyman program, keeping it simple. I am a very hardworking person. I'm a very ethical person. And I have everybody, I help whoever needs help. It doesn't have to be a United resident, but I will help. I've been on the board a little over 3 years, almost 3.5 years, and been in the village like 4 years. I have a few goals that I said I will discuss. One is the first one I have dragged it up a couple of times, get competitive lenders for co-ops. And 2 or 3 months, I think you will see the change coming. Improve realtor communications. Who sells our properties are nobody but realtors. So we have to let them, educate them, understand them, see what their problems are, and try to help them to sell our properties. And through that, I think I will do some work. That's my second goal. My third goal is keeping expenses down. I am also a fixed income guy, guys. So every penny that we spend, I am very concerned. And we have to watch every cent. My fourth goal is to use the retired brains, like I was talking about earlier. It's not just a pipe dream, okay? It is something our nation can use as people take it with them to their graves. This is a database that we have built in, given to us. 55 years of this community, nobody has even thought of it. I've thought of it, but I meet people who don't see the benefit of it. It will happen, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Azar?
My passion for people actually encouraged me to come into the board and applying for this voluntary job. And I hear you when you told me there is a dead rat on the hallway. You called VMS, and VMS staff said, "Ma'am, it is Friday afternoon, call Monday morning to see what we can do." I hear you when you tell me that you are waiting 8 weeks, more than 2 months, and paying association fee just to get to permit to doing some fixing in your unit, which bring asset to the community. I hear you when you are telling me that the plumbing making horrible smell in the kitchen, and then VMS staff comes and tell you, if you don't like this smell, just use some spray, and spray is gonna bring the nice smell. That's aging for the plumbing. We need to change this stuff. This is a land that promised to people live here with 250 clubs and beautiful golf course as a peaceful peace of mind and enjoying life. They're not coming here to dealing with this. And I will promise to be a strong voice of you, and I'll be a carrier of your voice to the board and start to getting results for all of these issues that I heard during this campaign that you told me. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you all for the time that you spent here. I just wanted to let you know that the Meet the Candidates will be replaying on Tuesday, October 13th at 1 o'clock. So if anyone missed it today, they can check that out. The ballots were mailed out on Friday, the 2nd of October. They are due back by mail no later than November the 2nd by 11 o'clock, or you can turn them back in person. There's the ballot boxes outside no later than 5 o'clock on November the 2nd. Those hand-delivered. And I agree with Lenny, please everybody vote. That is not a good percentage for us. We are concerned about our United board, and therefore we need to be good citizens and vote. Thank you so much again.